going to talk about gaslighting and emotional abuse. Now, emotional abuse it's very hard for someone to realize they're being emotionally abused, because in the beginning, the person is so nice, so caring, just flatters you. And so it's very insidious how it creeps in. And like, most of the time you think like, what's wrong with me? This person is so nice. Why do I feel this way? And you think there's something wrong with you, because you can't, because like, physical abuse is very easy to see, right? Because it leaves an outward bruise, right? It leaves like a mark. It leaves a mark, like a black eye, or a bloody nose, or a big, bruise. But and verbal abuse too is much easier to recognize, because if someone is, saying "you stupid fool," "you idiot," those things, don't feel good. But with emotional abuse, why it's so very hard and why it took me 16 years to break free from Dr. Richard Geist is because emotional abuse, is much more insidious. It's much more harder to detect, because a person doesn't call you names. The person kills you with kindness. So it's very, very hard to detect, and it's very hard to let go, because it feels so good. The person, in the beginning, the person inundates you, with flattery and charm, and is always there for you 24/7, and like, you depend on that person so much, you can't see how you can even function without that person, and you keep saying to yourself, this person is too good to be true. Like, why would I ever want to leave them? On like, what's wrong with me? Why does my gut tell me something isn't right? What's wrong with me? Why don't I trust this person who's always there for me, who's so kind, who flatters me, who says I'm special, who says I love you, you're special, you're so unique, always there at the drop of the hat. So lets me sit in his lap, lets me, roll all over him, lets me touch him. It's not what you would think abuse is supposed to look like, And even though your gut tells you something is a little off here, I didn't listen to my gut, because I didn't know, I kept saying, he's always there for me. I can call him 24/7, day or night, vacation, weekend. He lets me, sit in his lap. He says I'm special. He says he loves me. So these things are like, over the top for me. I never felt like this before. So it was very hard for me to even see that it was abuse at all. And that's where they gaslight you. See? They say that, you have the problem, like, that you're the crazy one. Like, they're only being very kind and loving and caring to you. Like, and you even question your own sanity. You even say, like, what is wrong with me? This person is always there for me. That's what they do in the beginning, until, they reel you in. They get you to be very dependent on them, so you feel like you can't even function without them. But they do it so insidiously that you're not even aware, that they're doing it. You just think like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to you. No one in your whole life has ever been this, wonderful and kind, and no one in my whole life has ever been there for me 24/7. There's no one out there that I could call in the middle of the night or when they're on vacation, or I never had a friend, or I never had anyone that would be there 24/7. So it just seems, it just seems so, like, like over the top, like this is this is too good to be true. And then little by little they pull back and pull back. They don't call you as often. They don't respond to your emails. You see, and then you start feeling like you're unwinding, like the ball of thread that's slowly unwinding, and then it's growing smaller and smaller and smaller. Like that big thick ball of thread that the cat plays with, and it's unwinding and it's growing smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's how I became. I became so small, I became like nothing, like I wasn't even there. Like I didn't even know who I was anymore without Richard Geist. And then when I got sexually involved and exploited with another psychologist, Dr. James Barbaria, he in turn began to treat me like I was special, like he loved me, like he was available 24/7, just like Dr. Richard Geist, except that he sexually exploited me by having sex with me. And then they both sexually exploited me by making me feel responsible for the sex, like I was an equal partner. But I was never an equal partner in the sex with Dr. James Barbaria because I was his patient. But they didn't tell me that. I later learned that out. They said that I was responsible as well because I was a consenting adult. Okay? I gave consent, right? I was of legal age, right? I wanted the relationship. He didn't, force the relationship on me. So I was responsible too. But then when I talked to someone else and read articles, I learned an old friend from high school said that, I was a vulnerable person and that doctor took advantage of me. And it really hit me like, but they're telling me that I'm responsible too. And then I read the literature on it, and it said it's statutory rape, that in certain states they can go to prison. But they gaslighted me and made me feel like I'm the one. I'm the one that, I'm the one that had the relationship too. I'm the one who wanted the relationship. And it can never be like that. It can, because I was a patient and they were a doctor in a position of power. But they didn't recognize that. They gaslighted me and said I was responsible. I was the crazy one. I was the one to blame. And, and Dr. Barbaria said, you can never report me because you will ruin all of my patients' lives. So he held me accountable for his patients. Can you imagine that? And then Dr. Richard Geist went along with that and said, you can never report Dr. Barbaria. So they both were ganging up on me, both of them, saying, this is my fault. I'm going to ruin their patients. Like, how can I ruin a doctor's patients? I'm a patient myself. It doesn't make any sense, does it? But this is how it starts out. So I want to give you the warning signs because once you're in it, it's very, very hard to get out of it. Like, it took 16 years for me to get out of this. Once I was in, because I became so dependent, I turned into an alcoholic. I never had an alcohol problem all my life until my late 40s, okay? Because of these doctors that severely sexually abused me, sexually exploited me, emotionally abused me, sexually abused me, and gaslighted me to think that I was responsible. And I could never be responsible because I was a patient. They were the doctors. They were in a position of power. So I could never, ever be responsible It was them. And it's written up like that, so, these doctors will lose their licenses. They'll, in certain states, in like 26, I don't know how many states it is. Is it 26? Don't quote me on this, but they will be put in prison because it's against the law. It's statutory rape. Because a patient can never give consent because they're, they're not equal. See? Because a doctor is always in a position of power, over a patient. It's a fiduciary relationship, like a lawyer, or like a parent with a child, one of trust, one where, the patient puts their trust in the doctor, who has, all the information and all the power, right? The doctor holds it all. Not, it isn't an equal, it isn't a mutual relationship like I met these people like at a bar. And we were both on equal ground. But they both tried to convince me that's how it was, that we were both, that I was on equal ground with them, which was a lie, and it was gaslighting me. Gaslighting means that they made me believe this was my fault, that I'm the crazy one, I'm the one responsible, and that's not true. And I didn't understand that, and I became so dependent on them, both, and it was 2 against 1, too. It's not like, I can't even describe it, the terror for me, because it was 2 against 1. It was 2 doctors against 1 patient. Usually it's only 1 doctor against 1 patient, but in my case, it was 2 psychologists, 2 doctors against me, the patient. And when you have 2, and they both were in the same room with me too. They both, because Dr. Geist did couples therapy while I was married. And he did couples therapy with me and my other psychologist. I mean, I have many videos that you'll have to watch to see the whole story. But that's not why I wanted to do this. I wanted to show you what like emotional abuse looks like. And you're looking at it right here. You are looking at what emotional abuse looks like. And I wanted you to know the telltale signs, If someone is saying how special you are, they're building you up. Red flag. That's a big, big red flag. They're trying to build you up. They're trying to make you feel like, you're unique. You're one of a kind. You're special. You can do anything, And then they're so nice in the beginning. They're always there for you. Like, wow, this person, how can I live without them like that? If anything goes wrong, they're always there for you. And this is how they get under your skin. This is the beginning, This is when the red flags should start waving. This is how it happens, okay? Someone makes you feel like on top of the world, like you've never felt before. Like you're just the queen. You're gorgeous. You're beautiful. You're special. And you just eat this stuff up. I mean, it was very, very hard for me because no one ever made me feel like that before. I was like, oh my goodness, So that's how it starts out. It starts out with all that flattery, all that kindness, all that sweetness, all that building you up, all that sweet talk, all that saying how special, how beautiful, how unique, how smart, how intelligent you are. And you're eating all this up. And then they're always there for you, Anytime you call, they text you several times a day. They email you. Phone calls. I spent 3 hours on the phone with Jim on a weekend night. 3 hours talking. They'll do anything for you. So you build, it's called a codependency. See? Because they need it as much as you. They need you to be, to be wanting them, needing them. It feeds their ego. They're narcissistic. they're omnipotent. They think they're some sort of god, or they think they're some sort of Superman. Like, oh, these women can't live without me. That's what Dr. Richard Guy said to me. He goes, I can't retire, and he's 80 years old. I can't retire. My patients could never live without me. See, that's narcissistic, right? They can't live without me. I would never want that. I mean, I would never want to think like I can't die. My son would never be able to live without me. I want my son to have his own career, his own life, um, so that he can be very happy without me. You know what I mean? That he'll have a great life. Um, I wouldn't. What kind of person wants someone else dependent on them? To feed their own ego. That's a really sick. Dr. Geis was a really mentally sick person. Don't you think? I mean, that he needs his patients to feed his ego and also pad his wallet. But anyway, it starts out like that. So and it doesn't have to be like an unethical relationships that I had. It could be with a boyfriend, someone you met casually, It doesn't have to be with a doctor. It could be with anyone. It doesn't even have to be with a romantic relationship. It could be a parent. It could be a friend, a platonic girlfriend, another girlfriend. But I just want you to be aware of, like, in the beginning stages are just so great. You don't even think that you're being abused. How can you? They're not physically abusing you. They're not laying a hand on you. They're not verbally abusing you. They never say anything negative or bad or call you any names. They only say how smart, how beautiful, how wonderful, how special you are. And they treat you like gold. So where's the abuse? I couldn't even wrap my head around, like, where is the abuse? How is he abusing me, you see? And then once I reel you in and got you hooked, then they slowly start pulling back a little more. And then you start feeling insecure, like, and they go, no, it's all in your head. I still love you. I haven't changed. That's what Dick said to me. I said, you're different. You don't respond to me. I haven't changed. That's all in your head. I'm the same. Right. And then you wonder, every time you bring it up to the person and they deny it emphatically and say there's something wrong with you. That's gaslighting. There's something wrong with you. I haven't changed. But then you feel them slipping further and further and further and further away from you. And you say, and you feel so insecure. And you doubt yourself because they're telling you it's in your head. Nothing has changed. And then it's just so insidious. It's just so, accumulative and slow. It just doesn't happen, and you start doubting yourself and your own worth. And then I started turning to alcohol because I started doubting everything. I felt so insecure. I felt, I kept drinking heavier and heavier and heavier. So, actually, therapy turned me into an alcoholic. Therapy made me psychotic. Therapy harmed me. And, like, when you look at me, you say, you're not harmed, you don't know what's inside of me, right? Emotional abuse you can't see outwardly. You can't see my scars, right? You can't see, bruises, right? But I've been severely, severely harmed by these two psychologists. And it started out being, sweet, loving, flattery. That's how it always starts out. So you've got to be careful especially when you hear these key words. You're special. You're intelligent. You're beautiful. You're one of a kind. When you hear those words, a bulb got to go off in your head and go, wait a minute here. Wait a minute. there's something wrong. And I thought there was something wrong, and I tried to report him only a year after I went to him. But then, he made me feel like I was crazy, you know, that, he's the only one in the world that cares about me. You're going to end this, and you'll never have anyone. This is what Dr. Geist said to me. And then I got scared. I got really scared, like, what am I going to do? I'll have no one. I'll have no one to turn to. He's only kind. He's only caring. I'm crazy. I'm crazy. What am I doing? I'm crazy. Why do I want to report him? I'm going to lose him. I'll never have anyone like that again in my life. See what I mean? They make you think you're crazy and incapable of living and standing on your own. It took like 16 years, I threw away 16 years of my life. And I don't want you to do that, okay? So, listen to your gut. If you say, this guy's too good to be true, guess what? He is too good to be true. He's narcissistic, and just wait. But don't wait. Get out now. Get out when it's good. Get out before it starts, unraveling. So I hope I've helped you see what emotional abuse is, what gaslighting is, and I hope that you're hypervigilant when you enter any relationship or when you go into therapy, that you don't have those rose-colored glasses on, and that you can see, be aware of these signs. Something too good to be true is someone who's flattering you and who's always there and like over the top. Get out. Even if it feels like a drug, especially if it feels like a drug. I mean, get out. Someone telling you, oh, it's all in your head, I haven't changed. If someone really cares about you and you've come up with a concern, they should listen to you. And even if they can't see it, they can say, oh, you feel like that. They should acknowledge that. If my son said, Mom, you're grouchy, and I go, no, I'm not grouchy, and I really feel like I'm not grouchy, I'd say, okay, I got to be more careful because you experienced me as being grouchy. I'm not going to emphatically say I haven't changed. I'm going to say, all right, my son experienced me as being a certain way, and so, I have to take his feelings into consideration and watch my behavior and make sure that I don't come across like that or something. You wouldn't just say something's wrong with you, I'm not that way. I haven't, you know what I mean? Obviously, that's gaslighting. That's making you feel like it's all in your head, right? And it isn't. It. I mean, deep down, that's why you're at odds with yourself. And that's why it's very hard to get out. So watch for those signs, and don't ever let someone emotionally abuse you, because, emotional scars don't really heal. I mean, a bruise will go away, right? If I get a black eye, or if I get, a cut, eventually that's gonna heal. Verbal abuse is very hard too. Words are really bad weapons, but emotional abuse is even more. It's even more harmful, because emotional abuse questions your own sanity. Whereas, see, verbal abuse, it puts it on them. They're the bad guy. They're the ones saying these bad things. But emotional abuse puts it on you. It makes you feel like you're the crazy one. So I say emotional abuse is even worse than verbal abuse, because at least with verbal abuse and physical abuse, you can point the finger at, they're the bad guy. They're the ones saying all these terrible things. It's them. But with emotional abuse, it's very hard. You feel like it's you. It's very hard to get out of that situation when it's emotional abuse. And it's very hard to see that it is them. It isn't you, because you feel like you're responsible.